The greatest NFL cornerback of all time, perhaps, is now making all kinds of waves as a coach in the NCAA. And guys, is Deion Sanders good for college football?
Yeah, from a representation standpoint, definitely. The progress over the last 10 years, you looked in Deep South college football, big-time college football, 90% of those players, approximately were young black men. And almost all of the head coaches, athletic directors were white men. So these communities need people in positions of power that look like them, that are from where they're from. And I would, suggest, and it's no question about it, that provides hope for these young guys.
Yeah, I think it's hard to argue with that. And if you're the University of Colorado, I think this is absolutely what you're looking for, because this was as irrelevant a program as there was in Power 5, coming off a 1-11 season last year. And they needed something to shake them up. And even they talked about the fact that they were taking a chance here by hiring Deion. But he has come as advertised. He's brought more money into the program. The games are all sold out. You look at the ratings, $7.3 million for his opener against TCU on Fox, $8.7 million for this last game on ABC. And, it's good and bad, right, for me, because some would say he is adding a lot into college football. I wonder if he's taking a lot of the oxygen from college football. I live out here in the Pac-12 footprint, and this is going to be the last year of that conference. That conference has been doing unbelievably well, and we're just talking about one person in it, and that's Deion Sanders. And I know there's a lot of angst about just what this is going to do to college football going forward, but I don't know that anybody else can be like Deion. Like what he was able to deliver here because of his personality, because of his brand to the University of Colorado, to the game. I don't know that this is necessarily the blueprint for any other celebrity coach or former player to just kind of drop in and take this type of role on, because even from an NFL perspective, there were very few Deion Sanders types.
For the Deion Sanders experiment to work, at least for long-term sustainability, at some point, prime time is going to have to show some humility. But there's going to be a time where they're losing games, people are attacking Shadur, they're attacking him, and how is he going to stand up and take this? Can he, show that humility? Can he, not point the finger? And for me, how he handles these situations, because a lot of these men that are under Deion Sanders at Colorado or at Jackson State or even other programs watching him, they're not going to make it every time. They're not going to make the NFL. They're not going to be huge successes. They're going to get knocked down. And how Deion responds when he gets knocked down, when he doesn't have success, when he's challenged, I think will say a lot. And also, these young men are watching. So that's key for me, how he's going to get attacked and how Deion handles himself when things aren't going well. I hope he handles it the right way. He's never really failed, and he's going to have some things to deal with for sure, as all eyes on him and Colorado.
Of course, Deion Sanders not only has his own brand and his own style and his own way of doing things, he also has his own particular method of team building. And some people wonder, is this good for college football players? Farhan, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't like it at all. And primarily, this is not about Deion for me as much as it is about the NCAA transfer portal. And I am not a big fan of that. And I think Deion Sanders is the absolute poster boy for the portal, because we've seen it, right? I mean, 70 new scholarship players. I think they've got 80 new by the time they've gotten to the fall. And I have no doubt in Deion's ability to recruit. I have no doubt in his ability to motivate as a coach, right? And there is no doubt also that he has built a very, very good staff. But can he develop long term? Because he's chosen not to here. And I know that the cynics have said to me, look, that Colorado program was awful. They were 1-11. Some of these guys weren't legitimate Division I players, and they should have been run out. I just don't see the world that way as it relates to college football, because you don't have to build that way. You look at Duke, and they're in a similar situation. 2 years ago, in 2021, Duke was 0-8 in conference play. They just turned around 2 years later under Mike Elk, a new coach, and he chose a different building path, a little bit more of a traditional one. And in 2 years, rather than the accelerated one-year path in Colorado, they beat Clemson, and they're now 2-0 and totally headed in the right direction and are also ranked nationally now. There are other ways to do this. And I also think that when you bring in players, when you sit down with players and you talk to them and you talk to their parents, you have an expectation to develop. And I know that in past years, there have been coaches that have run off players from time to time, but it hasn't happened en masse like that, right? And so is that the blueprint here? Because I think Deion is capable of recruiting high school players. It's just a choice of trying to build in the portal because he wants a quick fix. And I'm concerned about that, right? Because you can't just run that many players on and off your lineup all the time. And I guess this is what it comes down to for me, Davis, is that I coached high school football for 30 plus years. Development matters. And I hate the thought that there's going to be fewer opportunities for high school players because of where we're at with the portal right now. And I know this, dealing with it firsthand, that you get university coaches now. If you had 25 scholarships, you would give those 25 scholarships to high school players. Now you're giving 15, 17, maybe to high school players, and you're saving the rest for portal guys. And that creates fewer opportunities for high school players. And that might not matter if you're watching on TV, but for me as a guy that wants to develop, I want those opportunities to be there, and coaches should develop.
Yeah, you know, Deion is a great thing for NCAA players, about 5% of them. And those are the guys who have a shot to go to the next level. I agree with you when it comes to, you know, the development of young men. And Deion's going to teach these guys life lessons. But if you listen to Deion, everything and mostly where he's coming from is that of greatness. And that's what we're going to be. And that's who we are. Well, you know, like I said, these guys there's a lot of things that you're trying to figure out as a college football player. And you know, and a lot of that is the family. A lot of that is, you know, what your next move is. And so the stability of, you know, the people around you, the stability of what you're doing outside of football, all those things I think are being taken away to a degree. But then to the guys in the top 5%, the Travis Hunters and the Shedeur Sanders, who do you want more than Deion being your coach? With the connection to the next level, the mindset, and be able to share experiences and how it works at the next level. So yeah, I see both sides of it, but I think for the most part, it's probably not great for the majority of NCAA players.
Yeah, I know when you go through a recruiting process and a coach sits down with a family and they talk about things, generally it's about how you're going to look after that kid and how you're going to prepare him for life. And I think there's going to be some of that with Deion, because I think he'll also be able to talk about the hard lessons in life, right? That maybe he experienced before he got to Florida State and what he's seen from other people around him, and certainly people that he coached at Jackson State. But generally, if you're a Deion Sanders recruit, the pitch is how I'm going to get you to the NFL. And that's just not a reality for the majority of players, even if Deion is recruiting them. So, you know, is he good for college football players? I tend to agree. I think he's good for that upper crust. But, you know, we'll see if he's good for the rest or if he runs them off as he continuously tries to rebuild and have success immediately every year, not the opportunity to kind of build and grow.
Guys, Deion Sanders' star is burning about as brightly as can be right now. The question is, though, is this sustainable? What is his shelf life at Colorado and perhaps in college football in general?
Dave, I don't think this is sustainable at all. I think the chances of Deion Sanders being the head coach of the University of Colorado past 2025 are pure fantasy. And this is going to end in one of two directions. Number one, it could end in some sort of a NCAA-related type of scandal, recruiting or something like that. And those are a little harder to prove now because there's just so much more latitude with NIL and all of these other things. So, you know, what is a violation? But I think if there is one, I think Deion Sanders is going to push that envelope and, you know, go back to his time before he got into college football when he was coaching at Prime Prep, the prep school in the Dallas area, and that was 2 years just marred by scandal. So it could go in that direction as I just have to believe Deion thinks he's bigger than college football, so he's not going to be afraid to blur those lines. Or it could go in the complete opposite direction. He could hit a sustainable home run in terms of excellence and success, and a bigger name is going to pick him up. Florida State interviewed him earlier. Florida State could then, if things don't go well there, even though they're playing really well right now, they could hire him by that point. Another SEC program with even more money could hire him by that point, or he could even wind up in the NFL. I know that some NFL executives are kind of raising their eyebrows at what's going on here, and they haven't ruled out that possibility with new age athletes who Deion can relate to. So I think Colorado's just not going to be big enough for him. It's either going to be in one direction or the other. And he talked about that at Jackson State. You know, there were so many people who believed he should have stayed there longer. And there are people in the HBCU community that are really upset that he didn't show loyalty, which is expected in that conference to a degree. But I don't think he made any promises there that he was going to be there forever, you know, and there were some limitations there that he felt hamstrung by, so he decided to move on. And I've got to question whether or not he's going to wind up leaving Colorado in a better place, because I think you can have those same questions around whether or not he left Jackson State in a better place.
Yeah, let me disagree with you first, Farhan. That's more fun. There's zero chance that Deion Sanders is coaching in the NFL. That NFL players with the money they're making, where they're at, that's not a mesh whatsoever. You can talk to young college kids the way Deion talks. You're not talking to an NFL pro like that. It's not happening. I know you just said it's a possibility, but let's just take that off the table, not happening. But in regards to Colorado, I'm with you 100%. Deion Sanders is not going to be there. As soon as Shedeur is gone, I think Deion's gone for the reasons you said. Deion thinks and believes he's probably too big for Colorado. He thinks he should be at Alabama or Florida State or Miami or wherever it is. That's how he is. And also, when Shedeur gets the bag and is making 20, 30 million wherever he is, Deion's certainly not going to be in Boulder, Colorado, not being able to watch his games, and it's just not going to happen. So I agree. Shelf life is short. It's been a sweet run. It'll be a sweet run at Colorado, but it won't be a long one.
And look, Davis, I don't know this because I don't know the man, but I just don't believe this was all about Shedeur Sanders, because this guy was a top 100 prospect. He didn't need Deion to get to this level. He was a highly regarded high school player that was probably going to have an incredibly successful career collegiately and could have wound up in the NFL. So I'm not sure that's the motivation. And I do think, from everything I've heard, that there is a bit of authenticity to him wanting to be a mentor. And look, I don't think he could be in the NFL, or like that was my original thought as well, but this has surprised me, right? Just this level of instant success. And but I do wonder what's going to be left behind, because you look at Jackson State, and yeah, there was a marginal upgrade on facilities when he left there, but 24 players left Jackson State after Deion left. 9 of them followed him to Colorado, right? So when you look at what was actually gained, I mean, you look at that team a year ago, they played Florida A&M. They beat Florida A&M last year 59-3. 10 days ago, they lost to Florida A&M by 18 points. So how much better did he leave that? So I'm curious to see how much better he leaves this. And, part of me also believes that he's kind of used college football a little bit to this point, or at least used the HBCUs, because nobody was going to give him this job. No one was going to give him a chance to coach at the Power 5 level prior to this. Colorado themselves admitted they were taking a chance here. They were rolling the dice. And so he needed to instantly build his resume. He didn't want to go through the traditional college coaching path. So they were able to hire him because he said the right things at Jackson State. I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give you top players, and you're going to be a top program. And he delivered on all of that. That proof of concept allowed him to get to Colorado, which will then allow him to get to a bigger opportunity. So with Deion Sanders, I just don't want to doubt him. I think the sky's the limit. I just won't rule out the NFL.
Well, Deion Sanders in Colorado will continue to test the limits over the next 3 weeks. After they play Colorado State this weekend, they take on a couple of the big boys in Oregon and USC.